Hey, what's up guys? John here. Today was awesome. I got to meet a very smart and articulate, legally blind man in downtown LA. He's getting run out of business right now by Gavin Newsom. And in this video, I'm gonna share the entire interview. It was one of the just most eye-opening interviews and experiences that I've had in 2020 and 2021 so far, because his mindset and mentality on life and business is so different than just about everybody else. Before we started this interview, I said, would you like me to establish a GoFundMe? And I'll put the link for this in my top comment below. And he said, no, I don't want a handout. And that is just a powerful message today, because not many people have that outlook. Most people are looking for a handout because they're forced out of business. But this man basically has the vision of, I'd rather die on my feet than die on my knees. And that's powerful today. So with that being said, please smash that like button. When you smash the like button, YouTube's gonna share the content and it's gonna get to more people, and more people will likely participate in the Gavin Newsom recall. We only need 150,000 signatures left. And once we get there, then hopefully, just hopefully, we can get somebody better in office and change California and make it what it once was. So please hit that like button and let's begin. Hi, Steve.
Hi.
So this is your business inside of the LA County Records building?
That's correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about the business and kind of, what's been happening the last few months for you?
Sure. Well, the primary function of this business is to serve the building tenants. I got this business in 2019. This was a contract that I have through the Business Enterprises program, which is run by the state. And I'm required through that contract to run this business and to serve primarily the building occupants and the building visitors. When it started, it was very well. I had 2 part-time employees running it. I would do the work behind the scenes. We had business both from the employees in the building and visitors of the building. Now, once the pandemic began, the visiting stopped. That started to plunge our sales, and what really plunged the sales is when the teleworking began back in March with the pandemic. So as a result, eventually I had to run the facility myself, and it got to a point where it wasn't worth it anymore. More specifically, towards the end, I really wanted to do everything to save the business. So I put myself on the delivery applications, Postmates, DoorDash, you name it. We were on there, and that didn't work out. Part of the reason why that is like many other food service businesses, we're all on those platforms trying to compete for a small percentage of business, and those platforms are just overcrowded with businesses, and we're all in the same boat now. So like other food service facilities, it's been a struggle to stay open. Finally, I had decided as of January 29th to shut down my doors because the time just wasn't worth the effort in regards to the sales I was getting.
Got it. And so this is your store. Can you give us a tour?
Sure. So you come on in. It's like a little mini mart, I guess you could say, gas station. Is you look at the shelves, we were of course required to put this shield in here. You can see my sign. I had to have a fire sale to get out as much as I could. This is the inventory here that I'm left with. And as you can see, more so on this side, I've sold as much as I could. A lot of it I did sell, but there's still quite a bit left. Now, even if the lockdown ends soon and we go back to normal, this inventory doesn't hold for very long, so it will eventually expire. That being said, I don't know what loss I'm looking at yet, because we closed literally 2 days as of filming this, but I'd say at least $1,000 to $2,000, which, especially for the amount of sales I've been making, we're literally talking less than $200 a day in gross sales. It's going to be quite a huge hit.
And then do you pay rent as well?
I do pay utilities? Rent. Yeah, I pay rent and utilities. Rent is a fixed percentage of sales, so luckily that hasn't been too bad for me. However, I do pay a flat utility fee each month to the county.
Got it. And so this is also what's left here.
Correct. You can see the refrigerators are pretty empty. Most of that I sold, but again, there's still product left that I will have to take a loss on.
Where do you see the state going with what they're doing right now, with how everything's being handled?
Not very well. We're just continuing to go downhill. We recently just opened back up. I think that was because of the Newsom recall effort, even though that's not what the mainstream media is saying. But we're not moving fast enough. We have very little time to get things under control. In fact, when I was walking home the other night and outdoor dining just recently resumed, one of the restaurants on my street, I noticed it did not open back up. I'm assuming they're completely out of business. So we're already losing so many. These constant shutdowns of opening and closing, people can only last so long. We have one more of those, we're going to just continue to be more and more devastated. And corporations are just going to buy up the empty lots. And there we go. We're back into socialized corporate America. And small businesses are just going to be gone.
And that's a really big concern that I think a lot of people don't realize, is that the big money private equity companies, the house, like the house funds and people that have home offices, and they're going to run out there and accumulate distressed assets, businesses, everything they can possibly buy, because the dollar is going to get diluted because the Fed's printing so much of it that them sitting on cash is a big liability. They want to deploy it into distressed assets.
Absolutely, and they're waiting. They've been through, I'm sure, many recessions. These corporations that have been around for ages, and they're waiting. They know what's going on. They're going to continue to buy things out, and small businesses are going to be very scarce in places like California where this continues to happen. There won't be any small businesses. And I've been to areas, for instance, West Sacramento, where it's very, I like to call manufactured. There's only corporations, there's only chain restaurants, chain stores. You don't have small boutique stores. There's no charm. You're just going from one city to another and everything looks the same. If anyone's ever been to West Sacramento, they would know what I'm talking about. You're going to see that everywhere throughout California if this keeps up.
Right, and one of the great things about a place like LA, for example, is the diversity, all the different backgrounds, small business, small restaurants. Everyone's out there hustling, trying to make it.
Absolutely, and LA is very diverse. It varies from area to area, but the culture that you're talking about, where I see it most, for instance, would be San Pedro in the Los Angeles Harbor area. Very diverse, handful of small businesses, and that's really what brings people together. You have a sense of community. Living in downtown now for about a year and a half, downtown Los Angeles, that sense of community, even though it was a big city, you'd still have it in small areas. Now it's really gone throughout all of downtown. The sense of community, it's just gone.
Do you live obviously in downtown LA?
I do.
How has crime, how has the city changed for you over the course of the last 6 months?
Sadly, it's changed for the worst. I moved in a year and a half ago. That was mid-2019. The area was thriving. It took a lot to gentrify the area, because it was gentrified, and it was beautiful. It was the place to be. You had action. There were actually two sets of clientele you'd have. During the week, you'd have the work group, working class and middle class people, a lot of professionals, and you'd see them at the happy hours. And then on the weekends, you would have still decent class folks coming just to enjoy the amenities of downtown. So really those two sets. Now that's pretty much gone, and it's been replaced by just very low life individuals just coming in. Really, they're not supporting the businesses, they're just coming to hang out. They litter, and a whole nother issue is the homeless has only increased. But literally two different cities, I feel like. You wouldn't recognize one from the other. It's hard to believe that we're still in the same city if you look at it now versus even a year ago.
Right, and I fully agree. One of the main contributors, I think, is the fact that about a year ago, people came to actually do commerce and business, and now there is no business. So the people here many of them are not here to spend money.
100%. Yeah, the small businesses, but really many of them, as you said, they're just disappearing, especially the high-end clientele businesses. For instance, Fleming's, I live near there. That's gone. There was supposed to be a Capital Grill restaurant, another high-end restaurant that was going to open up. That's not happening. So yeah, and like you said, the office space, because downtown's primarily high-rise buildings, both for office, commercial use, and residential use. And since there's no work to do here, you really don't have people coming here for the right reasons. And not to mention, you have people moving out left and right on a regular basis. My building, I've already seen about 6 or 7 people move out. It's a 30-unit apartment building. That's a lot for a 30-unit building. All
Yeah, that's
within
a lot of
matter
turnover.
months.
Where do you see the future for you? You're going to close this business and you're going to try to start something else.
Yeah, I decided to close. I'm counting on it not reopening. I'm hoping it will, and that the teleworking will eventually stop. But if it doesn't, I'm going to work on my own project in what I call the private sector. That's because I'm involved in what's called the Business Enterprises Program. That's how I have this contract, which is specifically through the government, but it's something I cannot rely on anymore. So I will pursue something else in the food service industry, and something that I have much more control over versus a government or office building where I'm particularly reliant on the occupants of the building.
Can you share a little bit about what that program is like for the people that don't know?
Sure, absolutely. So it's called the Business Enterprises Program. It's because of the Randolph-Shepard Act. That was actually passed all the way in 1936. It's been around that long. It's a federal act that requires all state and federal buildings to have first priority to legally blind individuals to run their food service operations. Food service means anything from vending machines to a full-on cafeteria and everything in between it. We have had county priority in the past, county and city buildings. Now we do not. This one we had before that priority was taken away from us.
So you're going to start a new venture, and can you tell us a little bit about what that venture is going to entail?
Yeah, I'm going to go into the organic field. I went into this luckily just to get my feet wet in the food service sector, and it definitely has served me well for the time being, but being now that it's not, it's a good time to start new. So I am going to open up something on the organic line. It might be a convenience store, it might be a restaurant. It's still looking the means of that, and obviously right now it's not a particular time to make a solid decision because, as we know, downtown being a perfect example, demographics of the state are changing left and right. So really I might just sit for a minute just to see what direction the state's going to go, because honestly, especially if Governor Newsom does not get recalled, my chances of staying in the state are pretty slim. California just doesn't have the best to offer anymore, especially for small business owners. They don't appreciate us. They don't realize the amount of effort we have to put in. And the saddest part is they don't realize we're solely responsible for creating jobs in the economy. And
Right.
they don't appreciate that.
Right. People don't realize, I think, that the entire U.S. base, we have 30,500,000 small businesses that support nearly everybody. The corporations don't offer that much. They outsource as much as they can, and they do it because it saves them revenue and they don't have to pay as much tax. Meanwhile, someone like you with 2 part-time employees, you're contributing to the community.
Sure. And not to mention, some of it's federal, some of it's state, but we pay tax on every employee that we hire, which in some ways I just think that's absurd because we're getting penalized for bringing jobs into the economy.
Yeah.
And the state just infiltrates that.
What message would you like to let everyone know about what you've gone through and what you think would be the best plan of action getting out of this and moving forward?
We definitely need to recall Gavin Newsom. I was disappointed that the effort to recall Eric Garcetti didn't go as planned because he's just as responsible for letting Los Angeles turn into a total cesspool. But ultimately, we have to act fast. We really have to act fast. We're in survival mode. I commend the restaurants that are trying to operate. I don't like to discourage going against the law, but at this point, if that's what you have to do to save your business, and do it, because there is going to be no small business. But we have to act fast, and we have to let our elected officials know in any means possible. If they don't do what's right to serve us, we're not going to put up with it. And otherwise, you're just going to see more and more people moving out of California, and California's just going to continue to go to hell.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Steve. I really appreciate you giving me the tour and sharing your story.
Sure.
It's a tragedy. It really is, to work very hard to establish a business, have to let your employees go. Then you try to even establish a delivery route working with third-party vendors to deliver food and still can't make it, and have to close your doors and try to figure out a new way to make money in this economic climate. Could you imagine what it would be like to try to fight for a job in the next 6 months or a year when most people, most businesses are forced to close, and people are going to be very careful with how they spend money because really they got burned over the last year or two. So with that being said, it's going to be a real challenge. And then add in the fact of being legally blind or being impaired in any way, it's going to make things even harder. So with that being said, we really got to get California back on track and get this open so we can all get back to work. So with that being said, please hit that like button. When you hit the like button, YouTube again is going to share that content, and this will help us. And then also sign the recall if you live in California. It's on the top comment below. Simply just click the link. Thank you guys so much for watching. Also, please consider subscribing for more honest information that you won't find on mainstream media, business, real estate, and content based around personal finance. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video.